Thanks for listening to this Word in Your Ear podcast. If you'd like to get early access to all our productions ad-free, priority booking for our live events, and to take part in our weekly quiz, go to patreon.com/wordinyourear for more details.
Word down your way. Testing 2, 2.
Well, welcome to another Word Down Your Way, another musician about to go on tour and remembering first encounters with live entertainment. It's Sharleen Spiteri. Sharleen, lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
And you're in your house very near London Zoo, is that right?
Very near London Zoo. Near enough that I can hear everything.
You can hear everything, right?
And I think you should tell people what you particularly hear during certain nights.
Well, it's kind of every night, but I got to say that the lions in Regents Park and in London Zoo really love going at it. Full swipe in the middle of the night. Big sexual appetites. And I kept hearing this. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And you're like, what is that? And I asked in the zoo one day when I was in with my daughter, and I was like, what is that? And the guy, and one of the zookeepers was like, oh yeah, that's the lion's fucking. And I was like, oh right, okay, lovely.
I hope your daughter wasn't 4 years old at the time.
Is that actually the terminology they used?
Well, don't even start that, because you know that leads into a whole other conversation. I remember she was in the car with her dad, and she said to her dad, I think Michael Jackson was on the radio, and it was Michael Jackson on the radio, and it was at the point when he was married to Lisa Marie Presley, and her dad says, and you know Michael Jackson, and he's married to Lisa Marie Presley, and you know how much your mum loves Elvis, and da da da. And Misty must have been she would have been 6 years old or something, 6 or 7, and she said, "Do they have sex?" And her dad nearly crashed the car. He was like. And he says, who told? What do you know about sex? And she says, oh, Nora told me. Nora was one of her best friends at school, a little Danish kid. And I was like, of course, the Danish kid knows.
There you go. Oh yes,
the Danish
well ahead of the game.
The Danish kid knew straight away. So basically, he says, what do you know about sex? And she went, yeah, I know that's what grown-ups do when children go to bed at night. So that was her. That was what Nora had told her, is that's what grown-ups do when children go to bed, is they have lots of sex. And then of course he's in this big explanation with her, and I was like, seriously, you told her it was like a special hug and friendship? I went, no, that's not what you tell her. When she's getting groomed,
it's what they do.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a long conversation. That basically, then I just said to people have sex to make babies, and she went, all right, okay, got it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is my tea ready?
Very good. Dave and I were just talking about the fact that you are, I think, the second former hairdresser that we've had on the pod in just a few weeks, because we had Susie Ronson, David Bowie's hairdresser, on before. And hairdresser, very much the same. The gift of the gab. Great talk.
And what do you call it? Kevin Rowland as well was a hairdresser.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
of course.
Kevin Rowland's a hairdresser.
Oh, yeah.
Not audition, but what do you call it? Was known for his... what do you call it? There's loads of hairdressers. There's like quite a lot of people that were hairdressers.
Oh, really?
Became musicians. But I got to say that it does set you up pretty good for this kind of stuff.
Just talking.
Because weren't you in the Glaswegian salon when you were a teenager? You were, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I worked at Irvin Rusk's on West Nile Street. I was a Saturday junior, first of all, and that was because I was at the Saturday classes at the Glasgow School of Art. So when the summer came round, I was like, oh God, I need to earn some money for, like, you know, inks and paints and stuff like this. So got a job, and it was kind of like, I saw this, they had a sculpture in their window, a Pagliacci in their window, and I knew the piece, and I was like, wow, that's really weird that they've got that in there in Glasgow. And I was like, that looks like a cool place to go. And I'll never forget, I went in and they had Kath and Hamnet boiler suits as their uniforms. And I was like, okay, this is the place to be.
Absolutely.
And started working in there. And funnily enough, it had such a an influence on me musically as well, because we used to make up like mixtapes and everything for the salon. Like, you know, our bosses would always like, right, do tapes, and we'd all take turns of doing tapes that you play in the salon, and, you know, music and the fashion.
So what would you put on? What sort of things?
Oh, you'd have everything. You'd have things like, you know, Dexys and Aztec Camera and, you know, Smokey Robinson, Madonna, you know, it would be all sorts of Fleetwood Mac. It would be like a real mix of stuff, and, you know, Echo and the Bunnymen, everything like that. It was at that point, Siouxsie and the Banshees, it was all sorts.
Is it like being on stage, being a hairdresser, isn't it, really? Is it, you're on display, aren't you? You're expected to put on a little bit of a performance?
Theatrical show.
I never ever saw it that way. I kind of saw it more like being like, because the thing is it's a very strange job, because the reality is that you're seeing people with their hair wet, and then you physically touch them. You're running your fingers through their hair. That's a very sort of sensual thing to do, and it's a very personal thing to do with someone. So instantly when you go up, you kind of really just got to walk into it and be like, okay, you got to trust me here. And touching someone, and there's suddenly this thing that happens, and it's not about you and it's not about me. And it is the same way that on stage, you know, it's not the first second is sort of mine, and then it's like between the two of you, it's the exchange between, you know, between two people, whereas on stage it's the exchange between the band and the audience.
Right. So can you remember the first live performance you ever went to?
Yeah, I was a Saturday junior. I was underage. My big cousin Eddie Spiteri took me to see Simple Minds at Tiffany's. Yeah, I went to Tiffany's in Glasgow.
How old were you?
I would have been 15. I think it's about 15 years old.
What can you remember of that? Tiffany's were pretty small, presumably, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tiffany's was just, and it was right at the point of sort of love song and everything, which still to this day is my favourite Simple Minds song. I remember being, you know, number one, I was underage, so I was kind of like, whoa, this is different. It's people smoking and drinking, and it smelled a certain way, and this energy about it that I was like, this is cool. You know, when you start getting that kind of butterflies and you're thinking, I love this. Then the band came on, and the whole place just started like this movement that you've never experienced. And you're just like, whoa, this is just insane. It's like you're just pumping with this audience, and it's moving. And, you know, I remember Jim Kerr coming on, and all the band, and Charlie, and he had on these kind of like knee-high boots, and he was doing this sort of like tiptoe dancing and, you know, moving in and out, and it was all like, and, you know, Jim was like dancing, doing all these strokes and movements, and he'd on this like silk blouse.
Yes, he did used to wear that in those early days, didn't he?
Yeah, and I was
Pre-beret.
It was really
and
fun.
sort of ballet tights.
Yeah, exactly. And I spoke to him about it, like, because I did this thing for them, a documentary not so long ago, and I was talking about it, and it was quite funny. Jim called me up afterwards to thank me for doing it, and he said, and I had told the story about this, seen him in this blouse, and it was very feminine, and, you know, it wasn't what you saw guys in at that point. And he went, oh, it was my ma's. It was my ma's shirt, my ma's blouse. I borrowed it out of the wardrobe, and I thought, oh, this will look good on stage. And he was literally in his mother's blouse.
His mother's blouse.
Which is fantastic.
It is. Yeah. That's really good. Who else did you see around that time then?
Oh, there was lots of stuff. You know, there was so many the bands that are coming through. Oh my God. You know, I saw
the Banshees. Weren't you very?
I was a massive Banshees fan. The funny thing was, what was really difficult was certain bands would play certain places. Like the Clash did a tour, and the Clash played the Rock Garden, and I couldn't get in. I was too young. I just looked too young. And the Rock Garden was like a proper pub. So there was certain places that, you know, and it was like the Banshees and that, they played the Rock Garden, and there was just certain places that you just couldn't get into, which was hard. But everybody used to come through Glasgow. You know, I saw, who else did I see? I went to the Apollo. I saw Cameo. I saw Depeche Mode. I went to see Depeche.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Who else did I see? I saw a lot. I mean, I've seen so many bands. But there was loads in those early days. It was like there was a lot of Glasgow bands. Like you would go to like clubs. I remember seeing, I remember seeing Steve Strange. Yeah, I saw Steve Strange, and he did a PA thing in Henry Africa's. Saw that. There was lots of stuff going on.
What was the first time you were on stage yourself? Can you remember that?
God, yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday, because it's weird. It's weird how things don't seem that far away, and then suddenly somebody's looked at you. Yeah, that was like 37 years ago, and you're like, It was Dundee University, and it was the bar in Dundee University, and I'm not kidding you. The bar must have been about 10 inches, 12 inches high, and I was still shorter than most of the audience. I remember we played, I'll never forget that we played I Don't Want to Love Her twice in the set because we never had enough songs. I was hanging on to my guitar for grim death. It was kind of like the safety, I was
going to say, yes.
That barrier between me and the audience. And I just remember, like, I'm not kidding, I'm surprised I never left a hand mark on the neck. It was literally, I was squeezing it that hard. And
is that still the case? I'm really interested in this, because I've always thought that people behind guitars, and I think this particularly applies to blokes, feel less vulnerable than people standing on their own with the microphone singing. Tell us about that.
I mean, I do both.
Yeah.
Because I play guitar most of the time, but a lot of songs I don't play. There's a few of the songs I don't play guitar in. And it's weird because I had shoulder surgery just before Christmas. And for me, the really strange thing is that they said, well, because I went to Australia and New Zealand just in January, end of January. And they said, you're probably not going to be playing guitar. And I'm not kidding, you see the panic. Not because, but it's like, I know the songs with guitar. I know the way they are with guitar. It's like, Jesus, can I remember the actual words if I'm not playing them?
It's all a muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah, a really weird thing is like, how do I sing it? And doing this piano record at the moment, suddenly doing it in a very different way, whereas I'm not playing guitar, I'm just singing with piano. It's sometimes I kind of go, there's like bits of me that just physically start moving, and I really like, because I'm used to like doing something at that point. So that physically, it's strange for me. As far as like, it definitely at the beginning, for many years at the beginning, Texas gave me that, I guess it gave me like I think it also gave me like a toughness and it gave me a seriousness of, I'm a musician, I can play an instrument as well as a woman, which sounds really, I mean, I say it and I think, how stupid is that?
No, not at all.
You see, I always think it's really interesting about guitars, particularly electric guitars. They're kind of heavy machinery, aren't they? You know what I mean?
Hence why I've had shoulder surgery.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is. It's like, you move different, you act different, you sling on a guitar and you're literally like, come on, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put a guitar on and you just kind of think, yeah.
So were you watching particular, I mean, in terms of role models, it wasn't just solo singers. Were you tending to watch the kind of Chrissie Hynde type people who were...
Chrissie, but for me, it was all about Joe Strummer. I mean, I know Chrissie played a Telecaster as well, but for me, it was like Joe Strummer was my god.
The black Telecaster.
Black white Telecaster, yeah.
That's right.
And basically, I remember, at the beginning, I remember early days seeing this footage of Joe Strummer, of The Clash, and just as a band, they just looked so complete as a band. Like, just, you were like, that's who I want to be. And I remember Joe Strummer was spitting out the words, literally, like spitting them out, and he ripped his sort of the side of his hand on the pickup, and he was bleeding onto the scratch plate. And I remember thinking, yeah, I'll have that. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. That's my idea of. It was just so passionate and real and just, but really weird because it was so emotional as well, and in a really weird way, gentle, but literally in your face. Which I remember thinking, yeah, that's that's my band, and I want to be Joe Strummer.
Brilliant. And your second gig, when you kind of chucked right in the deep end and you finished up in some huge support slot.
Yeah, we ended up opening up for Fleetwood Mac, second gig.
How did you get that then, if you were so unknown?
Do you remember back in the day when you used to get the phone call on Tuesday that you just got Top of the Pops?
Yes.
The band used to get that call, and basically what it was the band that were opening up for Fleetwood Mac, they'd just come from Ireland, they were coming into Scotland to do Edinburgh, and they got Top of the Pops. So yeah, they went to do Top of the Pops, and our promoter was like, listen, Fleetwood Mac need a band, you're doing it, that's it. And
what was the venue? Was it huge?
Edinburgh Playhouse.
Right, okay.
And I had never been on I'd never stood on a theatre stage in my life. You know, it's like a big,
Really?
and it's an old theatre. So the stage is, I can't do it with my got my arm. The stage is angled, so it dips forward.
Raked, yeah.
Yes.
You know that thing when you stand on a stage and you kind of go, what is this? Because it's
Yes.
Be on a ship. That's right.
yeah. So, holy shit. And I remember, all Fleetwood Mac's gear was there when we went to do the sound check, and in giant writing on Chrissie McVie's piano, it said Edinburgh. And I remember thinking, who the fuck doesn't know where they are? Jump 2 years later, being on stage and
Suddenly you're doing the same thing.
exactly. Like, is somebody written where I'm on my set list? Like, literally having a nervous breakdown because I don't know where the fuck I am. But yeah, that was it. And I remember, Mick Fleetwood and John McVie watching the gig, and I was a massive Fleetwood Mac fan. Dreams was one of the first songs I ever learned to play on guitar, actually. 2 chords, easy peasy. I remember thinking, do you know that thing when you first learn to play guitar and you can sing a song and you can play a guitar and your mates are really impressed? Literally like, hell, sure, I can play and sing, and Jesus, that's like a song. And I just thought I was.
There's A minor and F and G. That's right. Yeah,
the 2 going back and forth. That's it. It's a great song. Great song.
So do you, just going back to that point, do you still have written on your set list where you are? You've got to have that, have you?
Yeah, now you kidding? I can't even remember my name on stage half the time these days. I saw this amazing documentary about Dusty Springfield. I think it was Lulu was talking about Dusty, and she said, do you remember when she used to do that thing when she'd go, like with her hand, she would, I just don't know. Like, apparently she had the lyrics because she could never remember lyrics.
Really?
Apparently they were written up her arm, and that's what all this. She was like, and apparently she was quite blind, so she was like going like this, so she could see the lyrics up her arm.
pre auto cue and.
I don't have an auto cue. I'm not that. Yeah. I'm still.
No, I'm talking about her. That's amazing.
I still write key words on my hands and my arm just because I'll be like, Sometimes I'll put little things across the top of my guitar so that my acoustic, whatever, so I can oh yeah, I remember that now. But once you get going, once the tour starts rolling and suddenly, you've done all the rehearsals and stuff, but sometimes there's certain things I just am hit a blank. Totally hit a blank.
So what do you do if you? I'm amazed that people can remember so many lyrics. I mean, obviously you would have written them and stuff, so they're fairly familiar. But I mean, what do you do if you do forget? I mean, do you just improvise or
laughing? I normally start laughing, and I'd normally turn to Eddie Campbell, our keyboard player. I'll literally go, Eddie, because Eddie's the one that always remembers everything. And then, but he's got to the point sometimes where he goes.
Oh. So this tour that you're embarking on soon, what can people expect?
It is the best of, so it's the best of tours, and you're going to get all the big hits, and hopefully, you're going to get from 1989 right through to present day.
Right. And
what have you learned about being on stage? What things over the years? What's the valuable info you can pass on?
I don't know if I can pass on any valuable info. I mean, I'm terrible. I fall about stages. I come off black and blue. I jump around. Then I do stupid stuff that I realise I can't get back up on the stage. I'll jump off it. I'll do it. I love it. So invaluable would probably be think before you do something stupid and work out a route back. Yeah, because I've had security lift me back on the stages and everything because I'm like, I thought, I need to get back, I need to get down into the audience. Yeah, I absolutely love the whole being on stage live thing. I love that. Going back to like my first gig, it's that moment of complete euphoria and shit, and you know that whole thing. It's like stoking a fire. You're suddenly like, come on, right, let's go. We're going to go. Are you taking it right down? Like just those moments of like, okay, right, I need a minute, so we're just going to bring it right back. I remember I actually learned a lot from John Mellencamp. The truth is we years ago went on an American tour with John Mellencamp, and John Mellencamp taught me so much about being on stage and about stage presence, which was really strange.
What kind of things? Give us some details. That's interesting.
So before I went to tour with John Mellencamp, I knew Jack and Diane. I was like, her little story. I didn't really know that much about John Mellencamp. And, our record company was a bit like, you'll never see him, you'll never meet him. He hasn't had a support band in 10 years, whatever, just get on with, do your job and come home. And we played the first gig, and after we came off stage, knock on the door, John Mellencamp walks in and he's like, hey guys, how you doing? And we were a bit like, thought we were never going to meet you. And he's sort of like laughing. His hatred for record companies is hysterical, I guess. And I was like, oh, great, I'm not the only one. And so, yeah, he's like, oh, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're just assholes. I just don't want to see them. But I want to see everybody else. And he said, you're going to watch the show? And we said, yeah. And he says, come up on the side of the stage. Went up on the side of the stage watching the show. And halfway through the set, he sort of shuffles over. He does this little shuffle thing, like a soul thing. Like he comes over and he's like this. He says, do you know Pink Houses? And I was like, yeah. And I'm thinking, it was the days before mobile phones where you couldn't just Google lyrics. Yeah. So I'm like going, oh God, I know that ain't that America bit. And I thought, wing it, because that's the hairdressing days, is like, I'm just going to wing this. I'm just going to go with it. And he pulled me on stage, and I did. He pulled me on every night, and he would say, Texas opening up for me. And he was just really kind and really gave us everything as a band that we wanted. Didn't pull down the volume, because some bands do all that stuff. He was like, my stage is your stage. What you want, if any you need to use it. He was just really kind and really giving. And he used to sound check. And when he used to sound check, he used to go out into the sheds. He'd go out into where the audience is at, and he would watch his band and he would sing back so he could get this idea and so he could see what they're looking at. And I was like, oh, okay. And he used to talk to me, and he was the one as well that really taught me how to stand back from an audience and just wait and like literally go, if you get a big set of balls, you'll be able to do it. So just move back and like wait for them, just wait for it to start. You'll feel it start to go. And, and that's at the point where you're like, you guide them and through the show and like, okay, I need you to come with me. So at that point, when you start moving and that's at the point where they're going, oh, right, we're going with you. So there was a lot of that, and I just learned so much off him.
That's brilliant.
You're playing a Cheltenham racecourse, we noted. So that's it. What are those gigs like? Was that after presumably after the races? It's the day of the races, and then the band comes on, and
And seriously, it's hysterical because you get people in. I never knew what a fascinator was until I did.
Yes.
And Jesus Christ, now I know why they're called fascinators.
Yeah.
You really want to take that stupid shit off your head, And it's really funny because by the time they get to the band, they're all a bit.
Yeah, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Full on. It's like a proper night out in Glasgow. It's literally, they're like.
It's a wedding, isn't it?
And there's a lot. And the best laugh is when it's raining, is if it's a wet one, they're like drowned rats. They're literally standing there.
Broken high heels.
Dangling fascinators.
Drooping fascinators.
There's like this, like across your face, and they're like, You know, very, very, very worse for wear. Most of them, they're a good laugh. It's an experience. The first time you do it, you know what it's like when, you know, when you walk on stage, and especially when you do something the first time, because you have that thing of like, what do you mean? You have that. Why would you be in a hat at a gig? So, you know, that's you have as a musician, where you're like, you know, you get a bit snobbish about it, and then you just fuck it, let's go, and off you go, and it turns into being like quite entertaining on our side as well. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I bet. So you're also working on your own thing as well as Texas. Is that right?
Oh no.
Oh, right. Okay.
But you've done a record with Spooner Oldham, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Spooner thing. Well, yeah, I did the Spooner thing. We went over to Alabama to Muscle Shoals at the Fame Studios, and we made this piano record with Spooner. So basically, Kenny Gates, who owns PS Records, he has this, we call it his baby.
Spooner, who is how old now? And 80 now?
He's old now. He's
wow.
80. Yeah. I mean, he's fantastic. He's one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. You know, he's so humble. You know, you really trying, I mean, the records that Spooner's played on, I mean, just saying the first 4 Aretha Franklin records is enough, apart from, you know, he played When a Man Loves a Woman when he was 14 years old.
Yes.
I mean, that's insane. And then he tells you stupid stuff, like you're talking to him, because you really have to press him and get stuff out of him. And then he starts talking and he gets really emotional, and he's just like, oh my God, you just want to hug him. And he's just amazing. He tells you all these amazing stories when he was making these records and when he was writing with Dan Penn and stuff. And then he'll suddenly be like, oh yeah, when I played on that Liberace record, and you're like, you played on Liberace records? It's like bizarre stuff that he comes away with. So yeah, he's just an amazing human being.
Right.
He's still touring. He still plays with Neil Young now. He still goes out with Neil Young.
Yes. Brilliant. Do you think you'll still be doing it when you're at Spooner Oldham's age?
Hope not.
Why not though? Willie Nelson's 90.
Willie Nelson's 90. He's shaming you all.
Bob Dylan's
I don't think I will ever not sing. That's the truth. And I don't think I'll ever not play. But, you know, I think I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky that because of the way our music is, and because of the way I am as a person, I can adapt to, you know, because you do adapt. There's certain things you won't do that you did when you were like 20, like, because then you look like a dick. Yeah, I always think, you know, and especially like, you know, I ain't going to be lucky if I don't need to go on stage and give it all that shit. So, you know, I can just go put my guitar on, play. I can do things like stand with a piano and do this piano record and sing the songs, because I'm very lucky that the way the songs are and my voice, that that's what I use. That's what my thing is. It's like, that's it. It's not bells and whistles, and I don't need the bells and whistles to do what I do. And sometimes stripping it right back, for which is what we've done with this piano record, is like when you take it down to its rawest form of how the songs are written. It's weird because with this record, you know, I was like, I'm not going to do any promo or anything. We said to her, you know, we're just going to put this record out because it was a project that we did. And it's all the Texas hits just on the piano. But, you know, people have gone a bit mad for it. And, you know, especially in France, I'm literally, like, I've been here 3 times in the last 3 weeks, literally doing, and people are like, oh my God, you know, you're like a soul singer. And I'm like, do you know that thing when I'm a bit
piano?
Yeah. And you know that thing when I'm kind of going, like, I mean, going like, well, that's what I always thought it was anyway, but never mind. It's only taken you like 35 years to realise it. But then again, what you think, and what everybody else thinks, are 2 different things. And yeah, so it's, I guess when the songs are stripped right back to the rawest form, they hear something very, very different in it. And that was what we were hoping to do with this. And, you know, just the opportunity to play with someone like Spooner was an absolute thrill. So yeah, it was great. I mean, you know, it was just him and I. Sorry, my dog's going. Him and I really going, sitting on a piano stool with me tapping out the timing on Spooner's thigh, So yeah, it was good.
That's brilliant.
Very good. Very good.
So we just end with the greatest show. It's probably going to be Joe Strummer, but the greatest show you think you've ever seen. What would that have?
Probably Prince.
Prince. Right.
Yeah, Prince in Paris at the Bercy. That was unbelievable. And the Sign of the Times tour, which was like off the chart. Like, you know, when just the EP show started with the band coming out through the audience, and they all had the snare drums. Like, it was just like, you had never seen anything like that. But also,
I saw that tour. It's stunning to the theatre.
It was just absolutely stunning, and
the
just
props, you know. And it was in the round that I saw. I think you said
it was in the round, and it was like
it would appear from under the stage.
You know that thing when you're just like going, and you remember the band all comes down from all the different sides. It was just, it was so unbelievably thought out. It was just amazingly executed, and Prince is insane. Because I mean, another one that I saw was Prince. I mean, I'll always go on Prince. I saw Prince at Café de Paris, one of those ones where it was the after the show.
Yeah.
And everybody was waiting for it. Oh my God, it was hours and hours and hours and just waiting for Prince to come. And then he came, and it was like, oh my God, like the dancing, and you were so close to it. That was what was amazing about it. And everybody was just hanging off the balconies at Café de Paris, just watching. It was heaving, and everybody was there. And it was just you know, and the songs went on for like 15 minutes and things, and he just did whatever he wanted to do. And it was just amazing. The musicianship was insane. Sorry, my dog's going to jump up in the seat now. Get up there.
Right. No, it's unbelievable what he was capable of doing, wasn't it? In terms of the writing and the musicianship, playing all the instruments, the production, the dancing, you know, the theatre.
I mean, after that Café de Paris one, it was like just Misha Paris had just kind of like started, and Prince was obsessed with Misha Paris at this point. And I remember going up the stairs and coming in. Misha was there, and she was like, "Hey," and she's like, "Oh, Char, this is Prince and everything." And I remember meeting Prince and being like, I mean, I'm not kidding. I remember he turned around at one point and his bum kind of fitted in my hand. It was that. I'm not exactly big, but I remember thinking, oh my God, he's ditchy. And it was just like, you know, but he was gigantic. You know, it was he's just such a presence, and everything, you know, seeing that, what he gave, because it was just like, it was raw. It was just like, you know, it was so well rehearsed. It was so, you know, I remember I told this story like recently on something, and I remember my best friend's son was trying to get into Berkeley music in Boston, and he had to do his audition, and my friend says, because he didn't get in the first time and he went for the second one to try and get in a second time. And he ended up getting in, but my friend says to him, you know, can you give him some pointers and stuff? And I said, well, how tough do you want me to be? And she went, go full on. I went, okay. So I said to him, get your pieces ready and then I'll come. So I go to the house, he phones me up and says, I'm ready. I turn up at the house, and I go up to his bedroom, and he starts messing about with his amp and everything. And he's like fiddling and fussing. And he's like, oh, of course, you know, when I do it, it will not sound like this on the day and whatever. And I just got up and walked out his room. Just left, went down for it, said to my mate, make me a cup of tea. And she's like, what's happening? I went, you'll see. And then he comes back downstairs and he's like, you know, what is it? And I went, well, do you think if something goes wrong on the day that you're going to be like turning and, you know, I don't care that you've known me since you were born, but, you know, when you see me on stage, does it look easy? And he goes, yeah, it looks relaxed. What I says, it looks easy because it's so rehearsed. Musically, you could literally turn the lights out, switch everything off, kill the electricity, and I'll just keep going. That's how well I know it. I said, because that's when you have that freedom of knowing your instrument, knowing what you're doing, being able to play with the songs, go in and out them, that is when then you can do a show. That's when you can like talk to the audience, stop what you want, come in, blah, blah. You know, there's all that freedom that comes with that unbelievable amount of practice. Yeah. And I remember saying that to me. That was what you saw with Prince, was like, Prince could literally just go crazy on stage and give every little ounce of energy that he had, because he would just keep going, because that's how well he knew what he was doing. And it's really, really, really important. You know, it's not like people kind of go, oh, it's this, is that. It's not a game. You don't get to be still doing this after this amount of time just because you kind of like it. You know, it's like you got to, I love what I do, but I work.
No, well, that's obvious.
I work really, really hard at doing what I do.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And the tour is, well, I mean, our advice to anybody watching is get your fascinators out and head to Cheltenham. But the tour starts off in what? In the autumn, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, the tour's in September. We're playing the O2 in London. We're playing Hynde in Glasgow. We're in Cardiff. We're in Manchester. We're all over. We're like, so it's an arena tour. So come and see us on that in September because that's the very best of. That's what people are going to see on that.
Brilliant. Well, it's so nice to talk to you. Fantastic.
Word down your way. Testing 2 2.